Welcome to Soleil After Dark, conversations on sex, trauma, and the body. A podcast guided by passionate trauma and sex therapists who talk about the stuff people don't always feel safe talking about. We're here to explore the real-life intersections of sexuality, trauma, healing, intimacy, and the mind-body connection. Our hope is that this podcast feels like a grounded, stigma-free space. One that provides thoughtful conversation, education, and rays of hope and light to those keeping their secrets, fears, memories, and the most intimate parts of their lives hidden in the shadows. This is where the shadows soften, the conversation deepens, and healing begins. Right here.
Welcome everyone to Soleil After Dark, conversations about sex, trauma, and the body. If you are just joining us for the first time, my name is Coley, and if you are joining us after our first episode, welcome back. We're super excited to have you. Today we are going to be talking about a new topic. We're going to be pulling in the body and somatic work, something that is really core and foundational to our work here at Soleil. And to join us, I have two wonderful experts over here. I have Rachel and I have Stephen. Would you guys take a moment, for anyone that's brand new to you both, and just share a little bit about credentials, what you do here at the practice, just kind of short?
Yeah,
Rachel.
So I'm Rachel Berg. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor, certified sex therapist, and certified drug and alcohol counselor.
Beautiful.
And I'm the practice director here at Soleil. So I do manage kind of the clinical, operational tasks, but I also see clients too.
Beautiful, beautiful. Stephen, what about you, sir?
My name is Stephen Heinz. I am a LCPC as well, licensed clinical professional counselor. And I'm also a member of the leadership team at Soleil. I got to make my own title, which is Director of Employee Enrichment.
Lovely.
Yeah, and also I am a clinician and I see clients.
Yes, beautiful. Today we are diving in a little bit more on the body, somatic work, the nervous system. Something that feels foundational to all the work that we do here at Soleil. Before we start, Rachel, a little bit of your background maybe in this kind of work. Where did you start learning about this? Tell me a little bit, like, what's your background in somatic work?
Yeah, so I learned somatic experiencing here. So our practice owner is a somatic experiencing professional. She's been trained. And I think something special about Soleil is all our clinicians are trained under this model.
Yes,
which is a little bit different. I think this is a newer wave of therapy. I think we've come from very cognitive history, where we're talking about a lot of top-down approaches, meaning like we're starting with thoughts, kind of cognition, and kind of getting in there. And somatic experiencing is different. It was developed by Peter Levine, who's a trauma therapist. He's trauma-focused, and it really looks at the neurobiology of the system and how to work with your nervous system.
Beautiful. That's super helpful. Thank you. I find that when people come in to see us, one of the main questions I get is, I want to work with the body. I find that, like, I've been in therapy for 12 years. I know my trauma. I know my narrative. I know all my things. There's a bit of a plateau that I feel like people come in with, and they say, I want to work with the body. What does that even look like? What does that even mean?
Yeah.
I think people know they want to go towards it, but they have no baseline of what that's then going to be. For someone who's brand new, could you describe a little bit of what that would look like? Like, what are we actually doing with the body?
Yeah, so from the somatic experiencing perspective, we work under the assumption that trauma is not necessarily an event that happens to you, but it's how your nervous system responds, if it responds, and then does that response see kind of a completion? Does the stress response cycle get complete? So I think we view trauma as like a state, a nervous system state that's stuck. That stress response cycle was not completed. Excuse me.
That's hard. That's hard to say.
So you're in either fight, flight, or freeze.
Okay, that's helpful. Do you find? I think I hear a lot of people wondering, like, is this going to be the traditional breathing skills that you see a lot? Are we getting up and moving? Are we talking about the body? Or is this mindfulness? Is it a bit of everything? What does this look like maybe actually in a session? What does this tend to show up as?
Yeah, so I think it can be, and I think where a lot of us practitioners in Soleil, we interweave this with other modalities, because I think that there is huge value to the traditional kind of talk therapy, talking about thoughts, feelings. I think we feel more comfortable in that space.
Totally.
But I think where somatic experiencing comes in is there is an orientation to the body that's not present in those other modalities. So we are orienting and kind of bringing attention to how your body is in space, exteroception, how it is internally, interoception, and we're bringing hopefully a greater awareness of what's happening in the body. And I think just attuning to, like, are there sensations? What's the heart rate? What's my breathing rate? So we're not necessarily like mindfulness. I think there's a presence that does accompany and kind of move over into somatic experiencing. Certainly we are using mindful presence. But I think unlike some kind of regulatory skills that are kind of used and managed in other forms of therapy like DBT, the goal is not emotional regulation, it's presence and awareness, with the hope that the nervous system is going to find safety, it's going to find regulation, but we're not forcing it. We're just getting curious about the experience and what's present, and letting the body kind of work through whatever that stuck space is.
I love the line, the goal is not to feel better, it's to get better at feeling.
Yes.
I love that.
And then you feel better.
Yes.
It's not what we're shooting for.
That's the secret that they don't tell you. That's actually a really helpful way to describe that. I think that helps shift the expectation of what we're doing when you're in the space. You had started to mention, you had said really quickly this idea of top down, top down, I get my directions confused.
Top down,
bottom up, thank you. I find that this is described in a lot of people's maybe like therapist profiles. This is something that I feel like we use in our field a lot, very like kind of offhandedly. I'm not sure if everyone knows what that means. And I'm wondering if we could pause for a moment and just define what we're talking about when we say that.
Yeah, thank you. So top down is cognitive first, thinking, feeling, in terms of kind of our cognition space. Bottom up is body first. So what's happening in my body, I'm curious about that experience before kind of moving into like the meaning and making sense, which has a place in somatic experiencing, but we're looking at what the body's giving first.
Oh, very helpful.
And then it's almost like building a new vocabulary as well. People will know, well, I'm anxious right now.
Yeah.
And it's, that is a series of body cues and context that you find yourself in that gives that cue, and it becomes reflexive. And a lot of times it's like, slow that down. What are the parts of anxiety? How is that showing up?
Yes. Oh, so even the label of anxious is a bit of a thought or like a meaning being assigned to internal experiences. Twisty belly, tight chest. Oh, very helpful. That's really cool.
We see a ton of secondary responses. So like I'm feeling this tightness of chest, and then there's a meaning attached to that or a secondary response. I feel panic because I'm worried XYZ, or this means blank, or this is associated with blank.
Oh, wonderful. That's really cool, actually. Why do you guys feel like this is something that is important to integrate into your therapy work? What maybe does traditional talk therapy miss by not pulling the body in general? So maybe not even just explicitly like somatic experiencing, but what do we miss when we don't bring the body into the space?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes when we talk about the body being stuck, I think when we're talking about it, I see this in some of the older forms of trauma treatment, is people will be sharing or telling their trauma and their body is not in a safe space. We haven't titrated it. So sometimes we're re-traumatizing, the body is getting into elevated or activated states, or it's completely shut down. So sometimes people can be telling their story, they can look very calm, but really their body's just shut off. So I think part of what we're doing with somatic experiencing is we're finding that window of tolerance, and we're navigating there. And I think traditional therapy doesn't consider that. They're not really looking at where your nervous system is in the same way. So I think like we're trying to process, but some people, their nervous system doesn't kind of naturally find that process on its own, which is why we really slow down the process. And it's just an attunement to the body on a slower kind of more deep, it's a deep dive into the nervous system.
Yeah, you're almost not letting to the person who's been in therapy for 12 years and knows it all, you're asking them to not just go through and like list out the story and then kind of be disassociated from themselves. You're asking them to really slow down and notice what's happening as they're going through it. Really helpful. Do something that I think we hear about all the time on the internet, right? We hear about fight, flight, freeze responses. It's very buzzy.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell me a little bit about what that actually means, what we're actually talking about, and how that shows up in the therapy space?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think as we've evolved to be humans in our environment, I think part of it is staying alive, survival.
Yes.
Like staying
Yes.
safe, right? So I
Definitely.
think these states that we're talking about evolved to keep us safe.
Mm.
So flight is, fleeing. If a danger's coming towards you, you run away, you're safe. Fight is danger's coming towards you, I'm going to fight it off, I'm going to stay safe. Freeze is a dissociation. So this response is there's too much going on, or I'm about to die, I don't want to feel pain, I'm going to buffer this kind of impact that's coming towards me, my body's going to shut down only to essential functions.
Wow.
So this could be like I don't have resources, or I don't feel safe in an environment, I need to turn off hunger, I need to turn off maybe intensity, I need to turn off connection to focus on surviving, or like I said, it's I'm about to die, so let's numb some of the pain that might be coming across, or dull the sensation coming in. So I think we often demonize these states in modern life, but I think they're really important for survival. And I think back when we were, living, hunting, kind of in the wild, I think we could run away, we could fight. I think with dissociation, it's part of it is coming back into the body. So I think, coming back to safety, and oftentimes there is a very physical process. I always share with people the image of fainting goats. They have a very visual freeze response where they kind of stiffen when they feel frightened, but when they return to safety, they kind of shake. The nervous system kind of shakes out and kind of feels movement, and they come back into kind of full regulation.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a great way to picture that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And oftentimes when you see somebody coming out of shock, you'll see a similar thing where there's like movement happening in the body. So it's really healthy. But I will say in modern society, I think oftentimes the threat becomes internal, or the threat is more systematic, or the threat is something that we've been conditioned to tolerate. Or we have to tolerate, for survival. And so I think these states aren't fully moved through. We don't necessarily get to run away. We don't necessarily get to fight because there's going to be adverse consequences. We don't necessarily ever fully feel safe, so we don't come out of dissociation. Or we bounce between these states. Sometimes we're not necessarily in one or the other, but we're shifting, or we kind of have dissociation is one of those that sometimes I call it the e-brake. Like sometimes the e-brake's always on some level, and we're just kind of bouncing between.
When you're working with that in the therapeutic space, are you working to, I know we had said like the goal is to feel, not necessarily to feel better. Is the goal to really be present and experience these things? Is the goal to come out of them? Is it the goal safety? What are you doing when you're finding a client is in one of these states?
Yeah, so I think first we have to understand kind of what reaction is happening. So what is happening to the body? Are you in fight, flight, or freeze? And then why? Like what is triggering this response? And I think part of processing trauma is recognizing like where am I stuck? Why is it happening? And then I think we have to, because it's all about safety. So sometimes feeling too much too soon, especially if you've been in a dissociated state, can be re-traumatizing. So it's how do we open the door and begin to let in this experience in a way that your body can tolerate and stand and understand and process, so that we find a space where your body's fully able to go back to safety. And I think the same thing with like fight and flight. If you're very anxious all the time, it doesn't feel safe. We have to actually establish safety in the environment, or safe spaces within the environment, so that the body can come back to safety. And oftentimes we call it titration or pendulation, where we are shifting back and forth between kind of dipping in to it and then grounding, or we're like titrating and we're taking little steps in and then steps out, to regulate ground and kind of find that window of tolerance.
Wow. You're almost showing the body, hey, you're safe, there's movement here. You're not stuck in a place once you're there.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's getting the body to trust safety again and recognize safety again.
Oh, wow. This makes me think a little bit about, I know last time we had you on here, we were talking about sexuality. And we started to talk a little bit about pleasure. We also had started to talk a little bit about pulling in like couples work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering how this point of safety, right? How safety impacts sexuality, how safety impacts the ability to set boundaries in relationships. I'm wondering how this shows up maybe more interpersonally and with your sexuality in general.
Yeah. So pleasure requires presence, and presence requires safety.
Yeah.
So you can't really feel pleasure without feeling safe.
Yeah.
And I think when you're talking about boundaries and kind of relational, if you don't know where your body is and you don't feel safe, it's hard to identify sometimes even boundaries, because I think boundaries are created to keep us safe.
Yes, yes,
right?
yes.
It's saying that I'm going to do this in response to this behavior, this thing. You know, this is how I'm going to react, so to hold safety for myself.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people don't really know where those boundaries are. Sometimes boundaries feel unsafe being set for cultural, social reasons. So I think it gets complicated. But I think as you feel more confident knowing where your body is and what your body needs and how your body's going to respond, it becomes easier to set boundaries and also ask relationally for things you need, and give feedback about how things are making your body feel, which directly relates to feeling pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. I imagine if I don't feel safe, if I feel like I'm fighting for my life or running away or any of these things, I can't like pause and ask for something.
Yeah.
Not going to be possible.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Sometimes this becomes really subtle. Like if I've never experienced penetration without pain,
yes,
suddenly my body does not want to. It doesn't feel safe because it knows it's going to feel pain.
Yeah. So
I may really want to have this experience with my partner and have penetration be a part of my sexual experience, but then my body is starting to have an anxiety response because it's fleeing from pain, which is really reasonable.
Oh, it's like a mind-body disconnect. It's like up here, I know I want this cognitively, it's getting in touch with the body, which I guess is to what we were starting with, why it's important to pull the body in. Because if we're just pushing past that response, not helpful, I would imagine. Yeah. Oh wow, that's actually very helpful. This topic of safety feels like it comes up a lot across the board in therapy. I'm wondering, to kind of round today out, when we're thinking about safety in the body, if someone wanted to start, you know, they're listening and they wanted to kind of start looking for this or thinking about this, are there cues of what safety feels like? I've heard a few that I really like, but I'd be curious what you both think in general. What cues do you feel like cue you into safety or tell you, hey, I might be starting to feel safe?
I often experience it myself and with clients as a present awareness, not a hyper awareness, but just like being aware and connected to the sensory experience of where you are, of having like I'm feeling all the sights, the sounds, the smells, right here, not in a I'm overwhelmed and is there a predator, but just in a really grounded, present kind of way.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think something I notice is like there's a full embodied presence.
Yeah.
I think I have a specter, we call it spectering, where there's like this person, right, watching your experience, analyzing your experience internally. That goes away when I'm fully embodied and present. So I think full safety, I'm kind of recognizing I'm allowed to be in my full experience. There's not thoughts or kind of emotion or like sensations that are pulling me out of the present moment that have to be necessarily tended to.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. I love both of those because they give such different cues to look for. I read somewhere, I'm stealing this from someone and I wish I could find who I'm stealing this from, but I had read that there's, I think it's 4 C's. It's calm, curious. I thought curious was a really helpful one to me. The ability to wonder and ponder and be interested in feels like something I can only do if I'm feeling really safe. I believe confident and connected. Yeah, it was connected. The ability to really feel and connect with those around you, the space.
Curiosity shows up a lot in the couple space. I notice couples who don't feel safe with each other
feel curious
for various reasons, don't feel safe, don't feel curious, don't feel generous. There's a generosity that's kind of missing. There's Stephen can speak more to this, but I think I see a lot of couples very reluctant to let in their partner's experience when they don't feel safe in their own.
When your own needs are unmet
Yeah.
and you don't feel heard or understood, then there's kind of a turning inward of almost a frantic, no, you have to hear me, that makes it very hard to hear, to have the external connection, because there's just that friction, that frantic energy.
And you can feel the flight, fight, freeze in the couple space. You know, somebody who's
yeah.
avoiding, or somebody who's just like really like, you need to hear me, and doesn't allow space for the other partner because they don't feel like they're being heard, or that dissociation, right? I'm confused. I don't know about my own experience. It feels overwhelming when you're asking me that question.
Yeah.
I'm having this kind of response and blinking. I'm blinking. I don't know. Like,
Oh, wow. It is interesting to think that what's showing up interpersonally, because I think so many people will relate to that couples element, right? Like they recognize a conflict in their own dynamics. I think it's interesting to view that through a safety lens, rather than just a fighting lens or a communication lens. How often do we hear people say we have communication problems? But there's a safety element to that, right? I can't engage.
Well, I think one thing I haven't mentioned so far too, part of freeze, there's a fawn response. So part of what dissociation can look like also is it feels safer to fawn, or like, I think anticipate what you want, what you need, to feel safe too. We see that a lot in couples work, but also just culturally. Like sometimes it feels safer to agree, to not speak out, to not have needs.
Midwest kindness.
But the nervous system doesn't like that.
Oh, interesting.
I think that's where we see sometimes like out of control sexual behaviors pop out. Where we see kind of people saying like, I really am attracted to you, but I don't feel any desire towards you. Like the nervous system begins to kind of fracture from your experience and your desires.
As I'm listening to y'all, a big thing that I'm taking away is just how much, if we leave the body out of the conversation, we're missing a massive piece, and that piece is often where the foundational change happens, right? If I'm fawning, maybe in my relationship things are, for the time being, seeming smooth. Maybe even like interpersonally it seems like everything's fine. I might present as a functioning member of society, but my body might be telling me something very different.
Yes.
And so we leave that out.
Yeah, sorry not to interrupt you, but I often see this with couples coming in, they're like, we don't argue, we get along
Oh,
so well. In every category of our life, they're my best friend.
Oh yeah.
But we don't have sex, and we don't know why, and this is really distressing to us.
Yes.
I think that's a signal to me, like there's probably some fawning going on. There's probably a lack of safety that maybe feels really scary to admit. And I think the sexuality kind of piece is just a symptom of them not feeling 100% safe.
So having a sex therapist would be a great way to start to pull in the body as well, because it's a place where some of this might be showing up. If to the public we're kind of presenting very cool, calm, collected. Fascinating. Oh, very cool. I really appreciate y'all's time. That is so helpful. If someone wants to learn more, other than reaching out and finding y'all for therapists, reaching out to us here at Soleil, is there a place you would direct them to start this body journey? Where would you point people?
Yeah, I mean, I love Lori Brotto's Better Sex for Mindfulness. I think that she does a really good job explaining the intersectionality of the body and the nervous system and sexuality. It is written for women, but I think that there's takeaways for everybody in that book. She has a lot of great resources too online that are also very gender diverse.
She does have a website that has free things if people are interested in that as well. I agree, I love her. Beautiful. We are unfortunately at time. I wish I could talk to you all for forever. I want to end today with our ray of light, our sentiment, bit of encouragement, thing you want people to leave here knowing or thinking about, especially if they're maybe struggling with some of the things we're talking about here today. Rachel, what's your ray of light?
If there's an urge, an impulse, or your body is speaking something and that's scary for you, I think follow it. The body is always, I think sometimes the body is asking for things that feel really scary or out of control, or you're not sure where it's going to lead, but I think following your nervous system kind of back to the roots, I think really beautiful things happen when we do that.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much. Thank you all for listening. Oh, thank you. If you would like to find either of these two or any of our other really wonderful practitioners here at Soleil, please feel free to reach out to us on our website, email, or phone number, and we would love to get you set up with something. Have a wonderful day.
Quick reminder before you go. This podcast is for education and general information. It isn't therapy, and it's not a substitute for personalized mental health or medical care. We're therapists, but we can't offer individual advice through a podcast. So take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and if you're dealing with something tender or intense, we really encourage you to connect with a licensed professional who can support you personally.